My beloved, you felt a pull the moment this message found you, a quiet pressure in your spirit that made you stop, breathe, and listen more closely than you expected. You may not have known why, yet something in you recognized that this was not noise or chance but a gentle summons meant specifically for you. That inner tug is how guidance often begins, arriving in the gap between confusion and clarity, calling you before you even understand what is unfolding. For now, simply take one grounding breath and allow yourself to be present in this moment. You have been carrying more than you admit, dear one, and the weight has stretched your days thin, leaving you wondering why clarity feels so distant. You open messages hoping for direction, yet most leave you more overwhelmed than supported. But this is different, because this moment marks the turning of a page you didn't realize had already begun turning. The urgency you feel is not panic, it is alignment gathering speed, moving you from the fog of uncertainty toward a steadier light. Something in the unseen has shifted, and you were guided here to notice it. Still, you may feel a tension rising inside you, a sense that something has been discussed about you without your knowledge. Do not be alarmed by that sensation. It is not a threat, but a signal that spiritual movement is underway. When the heavens prepare a transition, the body often feels it before the mind understands it. You might sense distance growing between you and certain environments, conversations, or patterns that once felt familiar. This is not rejection. It is protection drawing near, making room for what aligns with who you are becoming. The meeting being discussed in the unseen realms is not about removing you from purpose but removing you from spaces that can no longer hold you. Let this understanding soften your breath and widen your trust. You are stepping out of confusion and into clarity, even if the shift feels slow or uneven. The heaviness you've been carrying has not been a punishment, it has been the pressure of transformation, signaling that the season you've been surviving is nearing its final stretch. There are moments when your heart has felt stretched thin, wondering whether heaven still sees you, whether your ancestors still speak your name with love and recognition. They do, dear heart. And right now, their attention is turned toward this threshold you are approaching, watching with tenderness as you loosen your grip on what has drained you. You were guided here not to fear what might change but to witness what is already changing. Take another slow breath, letting the air settle your spirit, and feel how the fog within you begins to part. Even now, as you read these words, there is a quiet recalibration happening inside you. You may not fully recognize it, but something in you is lifting, loosening its hold on the old weight that kept you doubting your own path. The urgency in this message is not a push, it is an invitation to remember that you are not standing alone in the dark. You are being escorted toward clarity by forces that have watched over you since long before you had language for your longing. The moment you opened this message, you stepped into alignment with a guidance meant to steady you for what comes next. Allow this awareness to rest in you, preparing your heart for the deeper understanding waiting in the next section, where your context and spiritual identity will unfold with greater compassion. You did not stumble here by accident, beloved. Something in your spirit has been reaching for clarity, for reassurance, for a sign that the invisible weight you've been carrying has meaning. You opened this message at the exact moment when your heart was tired enough to ask for help but strong enough to receive it. That timing alone reveals the truth. You were led here, gently and intentionally, by a presence that has been watching over you long before this moment took shape. For much of your recent journey, You've walked with the quiet ache of feeling unseen. You've shown up for others, carried responsibilities without applause, and endured shifts that left you wondering who stands with you when everything becomes too heavy. That sense of isolation can settle into your spine, making you believe you move through the world without true support. But hear this clearly: your isolation has been an illusion, not a reality. In the unseen, you have been surrounded, accompanied, and remembered with a depth of care that would overwhelm you if you felt it all at once. Your ancestors have been closer to you than your own breath, guiding your steps, whispering courage into your spirit in the moments you were too tired to whisper it to yourself. They are not distant memories or fading stories, they are active witnesses to your unfolding path. And in this season, their attention has sharpened, leaning in to ensure that you do not mistake your solitude for abandonment. You are never alone, dear heart. Presence has been woven around you, even when your circumstances made you feel forgotten. You have a sensitivity, one you sometimes misunderstand as worry or overthinking, that allows you to perceive subtle shifts before others notice them. This sensitivity is not weakness, it is a spiritual inheritance. It is why you feel things deeply, why your intuition speaks before logic catches up, why the timing of this message reached you precisely as it did. You are someone chosen for insight, someone whose life has been shaped by an inner knowing that can't be taught by books or sermons. That inner knowing is what drew you to this moment, and it is what your ancestors and guides are affirming right now. Let yourself feel the truth of this: you are guided, supported, and held. Even if you've spent months, or years, feeling overlooked, Presence has been walking beside you with unwavering devotion. Every closed door that confused you, every delay that disappointed you, every relationship that shifted unexpectedly, none of those were signs of abandonment. They were signals of divine rearrangement designed to protect your purpose. The same unseen protection that guided you here is the protection that has carried you through the storms you survived without recognition. You may not always recognize your own strength, but heaven does. Your ancestors do. The clarity rising around you now is not something you earned through struggle, it is something you inherited through identity. You are a vessel of insight, a carrier of intuition, and a soul designed to notice what others overlook. This message finds you not because you are desperate, but because you are ready. Before you move forward, pause for a simple grounding practice. Write down one moment from this week, no matter how small, when you felt supported, guided, or nudged towards something you needed. Let that moment remind you that presence has always been beside you. And as you take this step, prepare your heart for what comes next, because the unseen conflict around you is about to be revealed with clarity rather than fear. There is a reason your spirit has felt unsettled lately, dear one, a reason you've sensed conversations happening about you in the unseen even before you could put any of it into words. You may have felt a shift, a tightening in the air around certain people, a sudden coldness in spaces that once felt warm, or a quiet intuition that your name was being handled without your presence. But hear this clearly: what you're sensing is not a plot against you. It is a revelation for you. The removal discussion you felt is symbolic, not literal. A spiritual spotlight illuminating cycles that no longer serve your growth. This is clarity rising, not danger encroaching. For so long, you've carried the sting of being misunderstood. You've offered loyalty in places that answered you with silence. You've given grace to people who interpreted your kindness as an invitation to take without giving. These patterns can make your soul feel betrayed, not always through dramatic wounds, but through subtle dismissals, uneven exchanges, and unspoken expectations that drained you without ever filling you back up. Yet even in this, you were never abandoned. Archangel Michael has been monitoring these dynamics closely, not to punish anyone, but to protect you from cycles that were wearing down your spirit. This is where the contrast becomes clear. What felt like betrayal was actually the first step toward protection. There are moments in life when heaven allows what is hidden to surface so you can see what you could not see before. When familiar environments start pushing you to the edges, it often means you've outgrown the role you once played there. The tension you felt, those strange pauses, the miscommunications, the sudden distance, are indicators that you have reached the threshold of a new spiritual season. And when a new season approaches, the old one begins to close its doors, sometimes gently, sometimes abruptly. This is not an attack against you. This is a spiritual audit. An audit is a review, a sorting, a clearing out of anything misaligned. It is heaven saying, this can remain, but this must shift. You are being moved out of energetic rooms that were too small for the version of you that is emerging. Those meetings you've intuitively sensed are not councils plotting your downfall. They are signals that heaven is recalibrating your environment so your purpose can breathe. Archangel Michael steps forward in moments like this, cutting away attachments that felt familiar but were quietly depleting you. You may even notice that your body responds before your mind does. You feel tired around certain people. You sense a heaviness after certain conversations. Your intuition tries to whisper, this is not your path anymore. These are not symptoms of fear. They are indicators of spiritual intelligence waking up inside you. They are signs of protection intensifying around your life. When patterns reach the end of their usefulness, they begin to reveal their true nature, either alignment or misalignment. And what has been misaligned is now calling attention to itself so you can finally step out of the cycle. Beloved, this moment invites you to reclaim your discernment. Not with suspicion, not with bitterness, but with a quiet, confident knowing that you deserve to be surrounded by what nourishes you. You are not being pushed out, you are being pulled forward. The unseen conflict is not a threat, it is a sign that heaven is preparing to elevate you into relationships, opportunities, and environments where your presence is not tolerated but treasured. As a gentle, grounded step, identify one recurring dynamic in your life that no longer serves who you are becoming. Write it down without judgment. Naming it is the first act of liberation. And as you bring this into the light, prepare yourself for what comes next, because signs and confirmations will begin to reveal exactly how heaven is guiding your next steps. Beloved, the very moment you began sensing shifts around you, the universe also began sending small signals to help guide your steps. These signs aren't random. They arrive with purpose, sometimes bold, sometimes subtle, nudging your awareness toward what your spirit already knows. When you feel suspended between confusion and clarity, heaven often speaks in ways that bypass the noise of your mind and land directly in your intuition. That is why certain moments stand out to you more than others. They are markers, not coincidences. You may have noticed dreams that linger longer than usual, dreams carrying symbols you can't quite explain but also can't forget. You may see repeating numbers, 111, 222, 444, showing up in unexpected places, or hear a particular name resurfacing throughout your day. Sometimes it's a song that arrives at the exact second you're questioning your path, or a sudden emotional shift that makes you pause and look inward. These are the languages of the unseen, spoken through timing, resonance, and repetition. They arrive when confusion tries to take root, reminding you that clarity is already forming beneath the surface. There are moments when signs intensify, not because anything is wrong, but because something is nearing completion. Before a breakthrough, the spiritual world often speaks louder, weaving confirmations into your everyday life to steady your heart. You may feel your attention pulled towards certain words, symbols, or impulses without knowing why. Trust that pull. It is part of the process of being guided from uncertainty into alignment. The surge of signs is not a warning, it is preparation. Confusion is the threshold, and clarity is the doorway waiting just on the other side. Sometimes the signs appear as emotional nudges, a sudden urge to check on someone, or a quiet push to step back from a situation that no longer feels right. Other times they show up as moments of peace that interrupt your worry, as if the universe is placing a hand on your shoulder. You'll notice your sensitivity heightening during these times, not as anxiety but as discernment awakening. This is when ancestral presence grows stronger, when the angels walk closer, when Archangel Michael positions himself between you and anything that could distort your path. These signals don't demand fear, they invite awareness. In the next 24 hours, you may receive a small confirmation, a gentle echo of something your spirit already suspected. Within 72 hours, you might notice a pattern forming, a recurring message, number, or emotional cue that aligns with what you've been sensing. Consider these windows an invitation to observe, not a command to act. Signs are not deadlines. They are reminders that heaven is communicating with you in real time. Watch with openness, not tension. Let your spirit stay soft enough to recognize guidance when it arrives in its quiet way. As a simple, grounded step, note any signs or repetitions you encounter over the next 3 days. Write them down without overthinking. Recording them helps you see the threads connecting heaven's messages to your own unfolding clarity. And as you gather these signals, prepare your heart for what comes next, because the authority and protection guiding these signs will reveal itself even more clearly in the following section. Beloved, there are moments in your life when protection rises around you so quietly, so consistently, that you don't realize heaven has been working on your behalf until much later. This is one of those moments. The presence you've been sensing, the steady, watchful, grounding force that seems to stand just over your shoulder, is not imagination or wishful thinking. It is the authority of Archangel Michael drawing near, positioning himself between you and anything that could dim your spirit or distort your path. You are not navigating this transition alone, and you are certainly not walking into uncertainty without protection. Michael's role in your life is not subtle. It is firm, direct, and deeply anchored in justice. Many imagine angelic protection as soft or distant, but Michael's presence arrives like a shield, a boundary, a decisive clearing of energies that have lingered too long around you. He steps into seasons where fear competes with your faith, where confusion tries to undermine your clarity, where old patterns try to reclaim your attention. And when he steps in, it is not to frighten you. It is to reinforce the truth that your life is valuable, your spirit is significant, and your purpose is worth defending. You may have felt the edges of this protection recently without recognizing its source. Perhaps you sensed distance growing between you and someone you once trusted, or felt a sudden, unexplained pull away from a familiar environment. Perhaps an opportunity slipped from your hands, leaving you disappointed and uncertain, only for you to later realize it would have drained you more than it blessed you. These shifts can be unsettling, but in the kingdom of the unseen, separation is often the first sign of protection. What feels like loss is sometimes liberation arriving in disguise. This is where the contrast between fear and faith becomes essential. Fear will tell you that what is leaving your life is proof that you are being abandoned. Faith will remind you that what is leaving your life is being cleared away so something aligned can enter. Fear whispers that change is dangerous. Faith whispers that change is necessary. And Archangel Michael, standing at the edge of your path, uses every ounce of his authority to ensure that faith is the voice you learn to trust. He does not force your decisions, nor does he override your free will. Protection does not trap you, it empowers you. This empowerment is part of your spiritual identity. You were never meant to be a passive participant in your own journey. Michael's presence is not here to tell you what to do, it is here to strengthen your discernment so you can choose what honors your peace. When you feel a sudden sense of unease in a conversation, that is protection. When you feel relief after walking away from something uncertain, that is protection. When you realize your spirit feels lighter without certain influences in your life, that is protection. Michael speaks through these sensations, helping you notice what your intuition has been whispering. You may even find that as his presence intensifies, your boundaries begin to strengthen. You say no more confidently. You walk away more peacefully. You stop explaining yourself to people who have already shown they do not wish to understand you. This is what protection looks like in real time, not just a shield from harm, but a recalibration of your inner authority. Michael defends you externally, but he also strengthens you internally, so you can stand firmly in who you are becoming. To ground this spiritually and practically, begin a daily boundary affirmation. Speak it gently, without pressure, letting it echo through your day. I choose what supports my peace. This simple declaration aligns you with the protection already surrounding you and helps you step into your own authority with clarity and confidence. Say it in the morning, say it during moments of tension, say it whenever you feel pulled in too many directions. Let it become a quiet anchor. As you move forward, dear one, remember that protection is not the absence of challenges, it is the presence of guidance. And in the next section, you will begin to see how this protection is preparing you for the reversal path, where delay gives way to release and your next season begins to unfold with greater purpose. Beloved, you've been walking with the heavy sense that your life has been paused, as though something important has been waiting just outside your reach. You've wondered why progress felt slow, why doors opened halfway and then hesitated, why opportunities hovered without landing. What you didn't realize is that this delay wasn't denial, it was divine timing gathering strength around you in every direction silently. Delay often feels like stagnation, dear one, yet in the unseen it functions as preparation. When you felt stuck, heaven was repositioning what surrounds you so your next steps could land on solid ground. Release requires readiness, and readiness takes time you often cannot see while living through it. Your spirit sensed movement long before your circumstances reflected it, and that tension signaled a shift. This moment marks the beginning of your reversal path, where what once delayed you now releases you. Think of it as a spiritual exhale, a loosening of what kept your progress restrained. The obstacles weren't punishments, they were barriers meant to guide your timing. When release comes, it arrives with clarity, urging you to step into expansion rather than remain anchored in outdated patterns ahead. Your reversal follows a gentle progression, clarity rising first, boundaries strengthening next, alignment forming naturally, and action emerging without force. Clarity shows you what truly matters and what must be released. Boundaries protect that clarity by preventing old cycles from reclaiming space. Alignment arrives when your inner truth and outer choices finally meet. Then action flows easily, no longer driven by fear but trust guides. As this process unfolds, you may notice subtle internal shifts that confirm your path is opening. Your mind feels less tangled. Your emotions settle more quickly. Old discouragement loosens its grip. These sensations are signs that release is underway. You are stepping into a season where what once felt impossible begins to feel reachable, where heaviness fades and a renewed sense of possibility rises quietly. Part of release also involves recognizing the doors that naturally close as your spirit grows. Some connections will fade without conflict. Some roles will dissolve because you no longer fit inside them. Some desires will change shape as you align with deeper truth. These closures are not failures, they are invitations into transformation. When you stop resisting them, you create space for opportunities that resonate. Yet release does not demand dramatic action, it begins with small, intentional steps that signal readiness. Today, let one simple act represent your shift from delay into movement. Take 10 minutes to declutter a single drawer, corner, or surface. This action may seem small, but spiritually it communicates openness, telling the universe you are prepared to receive. Movement begets movement, and tiny shifts often unlock. As release settles, clarity sharpens your vision, helping you recognize which directions feel supported and which feel forced. You stop pushing yourself into spaces that drain you. You lean toward what feels steady and purposeful. This is alignment forming, not from pressure, but from truth rising within you. When alignment stabilizes, action becomes natural, guided by inner confidence instead of external expectations that support you. This reversal path is not a sudden leap but a steady unfurling of who you are becoming. Each small shift builds upon the last, creating momentum that feels gentle yet undeniable. You are not being rushed, you are being aligned. The delays that once frustrated you are dissolving, replaced by a sense of timing that finally makes sense. Release is here, and it is guiding. As you step into this new momentum, trust the gentleness of the process. You do not need to force anything, your path is unfolding in its right rhythm. Keep listening to your intuition, honoring the boundaries that protect your peace, and welcoming clarity as it arrives. In the next section, you will deepen this transition as rituals and declarations help anchor your emerging freedom now. Beloved, this is the moment where what you've been sensing inwardly begins to take form outwardly. The path from delay to release becomes clearer when your words align with your intention, when your breath steadies your spirit, and when your body participates gently in the shift you are stepping into. Spoken alignment is not about force or ritual for ritual's sake, it is about reminding your soul that you are held, guided, and supported. And in a season where scarcity once echoed loudly, these simple practices help you lean into overflow with trust instead of fear. You have carried so much in silence. You have prayed quietly, hoped quietly, endured quietly. But alignment grows stronger when your voice becomes part of your healing. Not loud, not dramatic, simply present. A whisper can be as powerful as a shout when it is spoken from a heart ready to soften into faith. As you read these words, place your hand over your heart for a moment and breathe slowly. Feel how that single gesture brings your awareness back to yourself. This is where overflow begins, with presence, with breath, with openness. There is a reason spoken declarations carry weight. Your spirit recognizes your voice. Your nervous system responds to the tone you use when you speak to yourself. Heaven listens when you choose words that reflect hope rather than fear. These declarations are invitations, not obligations, doorways, not demands. They help reorient your inner world away from the mindset of scarcity that has been shaped by old wounds and toward the posture of overflow shaped by divine protection. If you feel comfortable, you may gently speak one of these declarations aloud. I welcome the protection that guides my steps. Or, if your heart leans toward a different kind of affirmation, try this. I open myself to what nourishes me and release what drains me. Speak whichever resonates more deeply, or modify one so that it feels unmistakably yours. What matters is not perfection but honesty. Let the words rise naturally, without pressure, without expectation. Your voice is a bridge between who you have been and who you are becoming. As you breathe with your hand over your heart, imagine the weight you've carried loosening, not because it disappears instantly, but because you are no longer shouldering it alone. This small ritual signals readiness to move from scarcity into abundance of peace, guidance, and clarity. You are practicing overflow in the simplest, most accessible way, by allowing your inner world to exhale. Each breath is a reminder that you are connected to something larger than your worry and steadier than your past. Rituals, when approached gently, create rhythm. Rhythm creates trust. Trust creates movement. And movement opens the door to release. Allow this moment to be a beginning rather than a performance. Choose one declaration and return to it for 7 days. You may whisper it in the morning, speak it during a pause in your day, or repeat it before sleep. Let it anchor you. As you hold this ritual close, your spirit prepares for the timelines and checkpoints ahead, where the subtle shifts already forming will become easier to recognize and understand. Beloved, when a new season begins to open around you, the shifts are often quiet at first, so subtle you might overlook them unless you pause long enough to notice. That is why gentle timelines and checkpoints can be so powerful. They aren't deadlines, and they aren't tests. They are invitations to pay attention, to witness the ways clarity starts to replace confusion, and to feel how peace begins to move through places where heaviness once lived. You are not being asked to chase signs or force progress. You are being guided to recognize what you already carry. In the next 24 hours, you may feel a small but distinct shift within yourself, a lightness in your chest, a sudden moment of calm, or a sense of being watched over. It may be nothing dramatic, yet it will feel meaningful, like a quiet confirmation that you are stepping into steadier ground. This is the first checkpoint, a reminder that protection and release do their work gently before they do their work visibly. You don't need to search for it. Simply stay open, and it will find you. Within the next 3 days, patterns may begin to reveal themselves in your outer world. A conversation that once felt confusing may suddenly make sense. A lingering emotional weight may lift without explanation. Or communication you've been waiting for might finally arrive, not as a guarantee of outcome, but as a sign that movement is unfolding. This is not chasing, this is carrying readiness, allowing alignment to draw what belongs to you without strain. Set a reminder for day 3, not as pressure, but as an act of awareness, a gentle nudge to pause and look back at what has already shifted. By 7 days, you may notice a stronger sense of direction. Questions that once tangled your mind may begin untangling themselves. You may feel more grounded in your decisions or more confident in your boundaries. This checkpoint is not about external success, it is about internal clarity. When you stop forcing answers, answers start finding you. When you stop grasping for control, peace begins to fill the space your fear once occupied. What you carry, faith, intention, alignment, becomes more powerful than anything you once chased. At 14 days, the deeper shift becomes unmistakable. You may not have every detail figured out, but you will sense that something significant has turned within you. You will feel steadier, more connected to your intuition, more aware of what belongs in your life and what no longer does. This is the culmination of readiness becoming presence. This is where your path and your spirit meet in a shared rhythm. On day 14, pause again. Reflect. Ask yourself what feels different now compared to where you began. To ground this process, set simple reminders for day 3 and day 14. Not to measure your worth, but to witness your growth. And as these checkpoints unfold, your discernment will sharpen, guiding you naturally into the next section, where boundaries and confident movement will help you stand firm without fear. Beloved, it's natural to wonder whether you're interpreting things correctly, especially when signs begin to appear and your inner world starts shifting. You might ask yourself, what if I misread the moment? What if I act too soon? These questions arise whenever you stand at the edge of a new chapter, where fear tries to cast shadows over the clarity forming inside you. But this is where discernment becomes your steady companion. Discernment is not about predicting the future, it is about listening deeply enough to recognize what resonates with your spirit and what does not. Discernment bridges the seen and the unseen. It helps you navigate moments where you cannot yet trace every outcome, but you can feel the difference between alignment and discomfort. Fear urges you to react quickly, to second-guess yourself, to shrink so you won't make a mistake. Faith invites you to pause, breathe, and trust that you are guided even when you cannot see the entire path. You do not need to rush clarity. You do not need to grasp for certainty. What is meant for you will not require panic to recognize it. As your sensitivity deepens, you may notice that certain requests, conversations, or invitations feel heavier than they once did. You might feel an instinctive tightening in your chest or a quiet pull to step back. These are not signs of confusion, they are messages from your intuition informing you of what requires caution. Just as protection guards you from misaligned environments, discernment guards you from premature decisions. Allow yourself to honor these inner signals without judging them. Boundaries are where discernment becomes action. Healthy boundaries don't build walls, they build clarity. They create enough space for you to hear yourself think and feel yourself breathe. And they protect you from being swept into commitments that don't match your spirit. If you struggle with setting boundaries, start gently. Here is a simple, grounded script you can use whenever you feel pressured or uncertain. Let me think about that and get back to you. This one sentence creates room for reflection and honors your inner voice. You don't owe immediate answers to anyone, especially when your peace is at stake. When you practice this kind of boundary setting, you shift from reacting out of fear to choosing from faith. You remind yourself that you are allowed to slow down, to discern, to feel into choices before making them. You begin to trust your timing instead of forcing decisions out of anxiety. This is how you move without fear, not by eliminating uncertainty, but by strengthening your ability to navigate it with grace. As you settle into this empowered posture, know that you are being supported every step of the way. Discernment sharpens your vision. Boundaries strengthen your path. Faith steadies your spirit. And all of this prepares you for the final movement ahead, where restoration and gentle affirmation will bring your journey full circle. Beloved, now that you've walked through each layer of this message, the truth becomes clear. The removal you sensed was never a threat to your purpose, it was a divine redirection designed to protect your spirit. What felt like doors closing, people distancing, or environments shifting was not evidence that you were being cast out. It was evidence that heaven was escorting you out of places that could no longer hold your growth. You were never being dismissed, you were being delivered. The very conversations you sensed in the unseen were movements of protection, not rejection. You have not been walking through this season alone. Even in the moments when you felt most isolated, presence was wrapped around you with unwavering devotion. Your ancestors watched over every step you took, ensuring you were never unguarded. Archangel Michael stood between you and every unseen weight, cutting ties that drained your strength and guiding you toward the spaces where your spirit could breathe freely again. Isolation was the illusion, presence was the truth. You have been held more closely than you realized. Now the path ahead begins to brighten. Restoration is not a distant promise, it is already forming beneath your feet. You may feel it in subtle ways, a loosening in your chest, a return of quiet confidence, a renewed sense that your life still carries purpose. Release has begun to replace delay, clarity has begun to replace confusion, and alignment has begun to replace the restless searching that once exhausted your heart. You are stepping into a season where what once resisted you will now respond to you with ease, where what once felt heavy will begin to feel lighter, and where what once felt uncertain will reveal direction at the right moment. Your spirit is ready for forward movement. Not rushed, not forced, guided. The same divine protection that carried you out of misaligned spaces is now guiding you into environments that can honor your voice, your gifts, and your growth. You are not returning to where you were. You are rising into who you were becoming all along. Trust that the next season will meet you with more understanding, more support, and more resonance than the one you're leaving behind. As you cross this threshold, take a gentle moment to affirm your readiness. Let this be a soft, grounded declaration, spoken with peace rather than pressure. I choose divine protection and clarity. Speak it as an offering, a permission granted to yourself, a reminder that you walk with presence surrounding you on every side. Continue to move with the same openness, the same discernment, the same quiet courage you have shown throughout this journey. And if your heart feels led, share that same affirmation aloud in this space as a final act of alignment, not for validation, but as a witness to your own emergence. Comment, I choose divine protection and clarity.